what cities need to do, I think, and I'm thinking of our city in particular, what would be helpful for us is to work closer with healthcare. What happens in politics sometimes, as we've seen yesterday, is it can be very divisive and there can be standoffs. So this particular topic of walkability has to transcend politics. We can't have it be labeled as a certain political party pushing this, because then the other people will see it as being pushed on them, which doesn't work. But to me, the key is if it comes from the health aspect. And I love the fact that Kaiser is involved in this, because it's about healthy people in general. It's not about a political party's agenda. That way, we can really all work together on it and have a common goal. And we do have common goals here. And I love the fact that we have this, this cross-section of people. But I just want to make sure that in this particular movement, we do not bring it to the edges of the political parties in any way and lose some friendliness to what this campaign is all about.
Good thing. Karen.
Yeah, do I have time? Okay.
Please, go for it.
I want to be cognizant of the time. And I think that's a really important point, because in some respects, walking is a business issue. So for businesses, they need to have a workforce that is functional, that is healthy, that is able to do their job. And so they need, and they want to partner, especially, a lot of it comes down to the local level, which is they're in particular communities, they're invested in particular communities, and understanding how to make that community walkable, because the more of their employees who walk at work but also outside of work, it just sort of goes from there out into the rest of the community.
All right, it all ties together. I'm going to tell a quick story about a campaign that we just had in California where we actually really brought all of these different sectors together. After the federal government passed the MAP 21 transportation bill last summer, they gave more power to states as to how they wanted to design their programs for transportation. Instead of 108 programs, it was boiled down to 6 programs. And so all of our little things that we loved before, like safe routes to school and transportation enhancements, were lumped into a big pot with other things like environmental mitigation and landscaping. And the state of California said, hey, we want to take it a step further and actually combine our state safe routes to school money and our rec trails money and our bicycle transportation account all into one big account. And we were a bit concerned because we wanted to make sure that we were going to be able to keep walking and bicycling as major priorities within the state. And so we worked with elected officials like the assembly lead in the state of California, Speaker John Perez. We work really closely with PolicyLink on the equity side and Rails-to-Trails Conservancy as well as a whole coalition of groups. We had funders that were supporting our coalition building, of course not our lobbying, but funders like the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Kaiser Permanente, and the California Endowment supported us to be able to build these types of partnerships. We didn't have any developers opposing us, which was a good thing. And there was support because they saw the data that walkable communities led to more people wanting to move into those areas.
And there is actually a California Infill Builders Association.
That's right, there you go. And then we had business support too, which was fabulous because people know that when you build walkable communities that you have more business. And in the end, after a whole year of back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, we ended up with a 35% increase in money that's going to walking and bicycling in California. We retained a Safe Routes to School program at the state level, and it's now guaranteed that 25% of the money in the new active transportation program go to support disadvantaged communities, which is the highest amount in state statute in terms of equity. So collaboration, partnerships, it's the name of the game. Okay, so the polls are showing more Americans want to walk and more Americans are walking. A CDC report last year just came out and said that. So real quick, what are the most innovative and creative ideas that we can put into play in this movement?
Well, I'll start. I mean, I think we're already seeing, one of the biggest changes, we've seen tremendous changes here in DC. I think one of the things that's directly attributable to is technology. And the interaction between technology and transportation and development has just been astounding. I mean, for me personally, the bus is now a totally viable option on the weekend because you can look and see, oh, it's coming in 2 minutes, and walk out the door and get on, rather than not knowing if it's going to be 30 or 45 minutes. You can't have zip car, you can't have car to go, you can't have sidecar, you can't have all forms of ride sharing without the technology pieces to it. There's obviously an issue with digital divide that we have to be able to address, and so community kiosks and other things can start to do that. But just that change and the way that's interacting with transportation is huge. And then on the other side, it's having such a tremendous effect on the millennial generation, on delays in getting driver's license. I mean, it's no longer the rite of passage is no longer getting your driver's license, it's getting your phone. And people want to sit on transit and text and Facebook and tweet and pickle things or whatever they're doing, and not get their driver's license. So on both sides, both the culture and the infrastructure side, technology I think is just having a tremendous impact.
And if you don't have the Everybody Walk app, go ahead and download that because that will help you to be able to get around. Speaking of technology, how about others? Creativity?
I think the other thing that's happening is as we've turned to becoming more of a walking community, we're developing the mental technology for understanding how that works. Seattle, New York City, Portland, I think San Francisco have all brought in Gale architects from Copenhagen, where they've really dialed in what's the psychology of people walking, how do you create invitations for them to do the right thing without telling them do the right thing, and understanding then how to create that language around walking and using it to organize individuals so they know how to express what they need from their elected officials in terms that will get them what they want, and create better walking areas.
I also want to just jump in and point out that both Todd and Geoff have told stories about people walking to transit, okay? And we do need to openly acknowledge 16% of walking trips are to access transit right now. And there's huge growth potential there, especially with technology. But that means that transit needs to be a part of this conversation. Transit needs to be in this room right now. The most innovative thing that we could do to get everybody walking would be to understand that transit is just the middle leg of a walking trip, and that we need all our transit operators, advocates, and partners at the table with us. We need to listen to them, hear what they have to say, and form a coalition to advance both of our modes.
That came up strongly yesterday, and it brings up, I think, a bigger point, and that is, walking as an add-on to whatever your existing lifestyle and community looks like. Can you just tack it on? Can you find the time? Or is it basically built in? And is it a trip that, are you taking transportation trips rather than recreational trips by walking? So that when you start to get more modes, transit, bike share, what have you, more choices, it just leads to more walking. And ultimately, even if you substitute a transit trip for a car trip, that may mean you're getting rid of a car, which leads to more walking for some other trip. So we have to understand that the sort of broader reactions that happen when you're building overall communities built for walking.
And I'm going to switch gears a little and sort of leave behind business for a minute. I think the schools are a great opportunity. I think some of the greatest innovation is happening there because kids don't have hang-ups. They were born to walk, and they have all that energy to walk. And so I think, I have one son who's in a private school, and that school gets it. They have gym every day. They start every day with 10 minutes of physical activity with the statement, wake up your body, wake up your mind. And so I think some of that is where, they get it. The kids don't say, oh, I don't feel like it today. Like, they love it. They think it's fun. They don't have any issue of I don't have time. And so I think some of the innovations are really happening at the school level where you get these kids and then they'll grow up with the mindset of, well, I always walk. I have always walked from the beginning and I'll continue to walk as an adult.
And I'll just add to that, that the walking school bus is a very simple but very innovative idea. You get different parents to volunteer on different days of the week, pick up other kids along the way. And then also walkability audits at schools and other places where you bring the elected officials with the engineers, with the people from the school, with the parents, with the business leaders, all together to point out what are the problems and then what are the solutions, and then you go and you make that happen. I'm going to go ahead and turn to you, and then we've only got a couple minutes left, and I've got one more question.
Okay. So schools and transit came up. I think that we're presupposing that there is an effective good quality school in people's community for them to walk to. And so I think that's and also transit, there's effective transit for people to get to their jobs and other things. So that's one of the ways the tentacles of this walking conversation goes so deep, and on the equity, and it's so important to look at the equity piece, because if there aren't schools for kids to walk to that are decent, we're kind of begging the question on this. So I think that we have to think very broadly about how we're approaching this, and we're really building strong communities.
Absolutely. I love the focus on strong communities. So this is a movement. Movements aren't born overnight, and they don't lead to fruition overnight, although we do have the small steps along the way that keep us energized and empowered and excited. So this is a long-term movement. Let's go out to the year 2020. What are the innovative practices that we're going to see at that time, and what do we need to do now to get there in 30 seconds or less?
I'll start. Every city's general plan will have a healthy living chapter in it.
Woo!
So that all of these walkability issues are built into every city's general plan as a matter of policy. Also, I believe that recreational walking along bodies of water is going to be a natural progression here, that walking will improve our rivers, our oceans, our lakes, because people will want to walk beside them. So not only will we be healthier, but our bodies of water will be healthier. And I see that happening right now all over the United States.
Great, thank you.
So my vision for 2020 is that we put the same resources and thought into walking as we do into cars today. We plan our society around that. How do we make that switch?
Every American will live within 3 miles of a high-quality trail system. Trails are the innovative solution that will get everybody walking. The Metropolitan Branch Trail will go from Silver Spring to Union Station, meeting people where they live, bringing the trail to them, and getting everybody active.
Thank you.
So keeping my developer hat on, crowdfunding, crowd planning, those are going to be big innovations, and public-private partnerships, a much better job of understanding value capture, of being able to work effectively with our public sector partners, financing and planning of developments within communities. I think those are going to be huge.